Hey guys, welcome to the Nerd Corner. I'm Josh.
And I'm Matt, and today we'll have a Coen Brothers double feature review for you today. We're going to be reviewing No Country for Josh Brolin.
And Inside Leia Davis. Hey guys, once again, thank you for watching the Nerd Corner. For those of you who haven't seen No Country for Old Men or Inside Llewyn Davis, we highly recommend you leave now because there will be major spoilers. So go watch the movie and enjoy. So Matt, initial thoughts about No Country for Old Men?
No Country for Old Men was really long. It was like at least a 14-hour movie.
There wasn't a single song in the entire movie. I think that's one of the reasons that it was seemed so long.
Mm-hmm.
The runtime on this movie, we've got 122 minutes. So, you know, it's not an entirely too long runtime, but the movie progresses so slowly, it seems much longer.
I feel like the movie's drawn out, kind of. It's like, it's not too terribly long running time. I mean, like Lawrence of Arabia is like 4 hours. And this movie's like, what is it? What
2 hours.
2 hours and 2 minutes, yeah. And The Avengers was 2 hours, 30 minutes or something.
But the thing with The Avengers is there's a lot of action, there's a lot of stuff going on.
A lot of music and stuff like that. And so it kind of gets to the point where in No Country for Old Men, there's the middle, like it kind of goes uphill, and then it kind of goes a little bit and then it kind of goes uphill again.
I think the slowness of the movie can be a real turnoff to casual moviegoers, but the redeeming qualities of Anton Chigurh's character can help push you through it, because those are the moments you wait for, and you're always waiting to see what he does next.
Right. I think Javier Bardem's a really good character actor, where he's like super evil, but he's like in a morally gray area because he leaves everything to chance.
He has his own sense of justice and his own code. Like, he's not a lawless man, but because he has his own law, in the eyes of everyone else's law, he's breaking it, but he has his own law that he adopts.
Yeah,
and that like kind of guides us through the movie.
It's like his moral code is Lady Luck. He leaves everything just to luck and chance and stuff like that. And he's the most interesting character in this movie. He is the high point of this movie, but then the rest of the characters are kind of flat.
So do you see Tommy Lee Jones's character and Josh Brolin's character as low points?
They're not low points. It's just that I'm not emotionally invested enough in Josh Brolin to sit through 2 hours and 2 minutes of him going shopping for guns and boots and stuff. So,
I think you can get really in depth with this movie. Like, there's definitely a lot of hidden symbolism, and that's the thing with the Coens in every movie. There's the surface value, which is the slowness and the lack of almost tension, at least it felt like to me.
Yeah.
But if you dive deep, and that's why I say a casual moviegoer won't enjoy this movie.
It's very art house.
Yes.
It's very art house in that aspect where it'll like kind of ostracize casual moviegoers, so it's not like the summer movie blockbuster, which is usually crap. But
I mean, it's you can't complain too much because it's the Coen Brothers' own signature. It's definitely one of their movies. Like, you can identify it. Even though the Coen Brothers don't really have one single type of movie they do, you can identify it because of the level of depth and complexity. And I think that maybe they could have made it more interesting, but I'm going to respect their directorial choices in this movie. Would you recommend it? Well, what audience would you recommend goes watch this movie?
I recommend the No Country for Old Men for very, very astute film critics, or people who just, not the casuals, or who feel like the hardcore film people. Its storyline is such that I feel like anyone can follow it, but it's also very, very alienating because it's so slow and it's so drawn out. There's no music, and there are action set pieces, but there's very few and far between in 2 hours and 2 minutes. So, story progression. What did you think of the story progression?
I was reading up on it, and one of your favorite words popped up. It was MacGuffin. That the $2 million is a classic MacGuffin, and I think that if you look at Josh Brolin's character and his own sense of justice, that everybody has their own code they're going by, and they're all, Tommy Lee Jones is going by his moral code, and essentially all their moral codes drive the plot, and the MacGuffin helps drive the plot through. You know, you don't care about the $2 million. You don't care that Josh Brolin has it, but the plot's progressed very slowly by each character hunting the other character. Like, it's Josh Brolin running from, and it's like you said earlier to me, that it's an opposite of a Western. Like, the Western is the bad guy hunting the good guy,
Mm-hmm.
or the good guy overcoming the evil presence. This movie is very gray in that sense.
It's very morally gray.
Yeah, in the sense that, you know, the good guy doesn't always win. It's definitely a Western tragedy.
Exactly, and that's kind of one of the problems I had with the movie was the ending. Like, okay, so the story up until then was like Josh Brolin finds money in the desert after drug deal went bad. He finds $2 million, right? And so he goes and he takes that $2 million, and Javier Bardem's sent to track it down. It was kind of hard, that part.
Yeah.
But he's sent to track it down, so he's hunting Josh Brolin throughout the entirety of the movie, and Josh Brolin's on the run throughout the entirety of the movie, and he's like living life, you know, he's going to hotel to hotel,
Mm-hmm.
He bought a gun, he scenes where he's shopping, you know, and all that stuff, and then Tommy Lee Jones is kind of the narrator about that. He's kind of like the mentor figure, but he doesn't really mentor Josh Brolin. And so, like, it just kind of goes, it's kind of like a manhunt with every POV character, every little point of view, where you have Javier Bardem, and you have Josh Brolin, and you have Tommy Lee Jones, and then you have Woody Harrelson's. You have all these people, and they're all looking for the same thing, whether that's malicious intent or, you know, benign intent or whatever. You have these set pieces that are kind of interwoven into a singular plot, and the MacGuffin is it's the $2 million, and everyone's kind of hunting that, but Josh Brolin has it and he's kind of running away, and then everyone's following him, whether that's to protect him or to kill it for the $2 million.
Now, moving on to our second film, Inside Llewyn Davis. My favorite character in this movie was probably John Goodman's character.
Mm.
I mean, you feel a lot of sympathy for Oscar Isaac's character, you know, Llewyn Davis. But John Goodman's character, I got, was a representation of everything that Llewyn Davis hated and didn't want to be. There's a lot of symbolism in this movie.
Yeah.
A lot. And it's really heavy, but not as dense, I'd say, as No Country for Old Men. The plot moves along. There is a slow point.
Mm-hmm.
The slow point hits after he leaves home, and he does go on the car ride with John Goodman.
Right.
And after John Goodman overdoses, and then the driver gets arrested.
That's kind of like the low point of the
That's the
movie.
low point of the movie. And when he auditions for Bob Goodman? No, not Goodman. Who's the record? Bob Grossman.
Bob Grossman.
He goes to Bob Grossman, and I know that's like a pinnacle turning point in the movie, but it was so slow that at times it almost lost my attention. And don't even get me started on the Merchant Marine part. Like,
Yeah.
when he goes for that, I didn't care about that part. I understand why they put it in there, but I don't know. I just wasn't drawn into it as much as the rest of the movie. I was really drawn to Carey Mulligan's character. I thought that she wasn't so complex, but she was kind of confusing in the sense of her attitudes on Llewyn Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it seemed like part of her loved him,
Yeah,
and then
I think she had that like love-hate relationship thing with him going on, because she's just like, I once loved you, but now I hate you. You know, and I think a lot of us can relate to that. So Llewyn Davis, you know, it's about a folk singer, and he's going around trying to, you know, he's trying to make it big in the entertainment industry, and a lot of people can relate. And it's just like he tries and tries and tries, and there's certain he's got his own moral code in this movie. And he says, I'm not going to give that up for you guys. I'm not going to give that up for the man, you know. So it's kind of like a rebellious movie. And he goes around, but he's not making it. He's sleeping on people's couches, and then he gets the whole, like, let's go to Chicago thing. And so he rides with John Goodman, and I feel like John Goodman really represents what the public opinion of Llewyn Davis is, which is, he says, you know, folk music is bad. He's like, you can't make it in this business, and you're terrible, and this, that, one, the other. And it really kind of drags Llewyn Davis down. And he's like, man, I really
even further than he already is.
Even further than he already is. Homeless, having a cat. The cat. And it's a really great film because it's a story about a guy, and he is trying to trace his dreams, and it's not too overly sappy. But at the same time, it's kind of real in the sense that he doesn't really make it at the end, And he's chasing his dreams, and he can't quite reach them. He's always out of his grasp, or there's always something that goes wrong. And then, like I said before, we can always relate to that. Flat tire or whatever, he needs to pay his merchant fees or whatever to be a merchant and stuff like that. And so it's his life journey to try and be a folk singer. It's that 1 week in his life where we see it, where he's trying to be a folk singer, and that is just, I really liked it because it was just a story of a man chasing his dreams. That's it, and it's so simple, but it's complex at the same time because it can delve into the human spirit. There's
a lot of depression, and it's almost like for just a few seconds in the lifespan of humanity that we narrow down to one man's perspective. Everything else is, it feels the rest of the world is isolated. He's in Greenwich Village. It's 1961, I think. Early 1960s. And you just take a piece and you get to spend a week with this character, and he doesn't say too much. He's very withdrawn from the world, and there's so much going on inside, and he's such a complex character that I think we'll never understand everything that's going on inside Llewyn Davis' mind.
But he's relatable.
But he's relatable in the fact, like you said, he's trying to change, and he's also suffering from loss, which everyone goes through loss in their life.
Yeah.
It's very, a very general theme, but made in such an original way that we haven't really seen before.
It's because I think the way that the Coen brothers did it was they said, okay, let's take these themes and let's put them in a guy who's an everyman, and he can't, he's not the hardworking individual. He's kind of like a slacker at times, but he's chasing his dreams and he's not getting anywhere. So I feel like that's a great story, but I feel like the Coen brothers do such a great job telling it that it's a boring story if you actually look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you delve deeper into it, it's actually a really interesting story, and the actors do a fantastic job with conveying the emotions, from Carey Mulligan to John Goodman. I loved John Goodman's character in this; he was hilarious. And who, I don't even know who Llewyn Davis is. Oscar Isaac. Oscar Isaac, never heard of him. But anyway.
Fantastic actor, though.
Yeah, fantastic actor. And it's crazy because everyone's beating him down. But at the very end, when he finally accepts his fate and he says, I'll just keep living this moment for the rest of my life, that touched me. It was like, wow, that's an interesting message, because he's just like, I'm okay with this.
Let's talk about two things, two very symbolic things. Let's talk about for those of you who've seen the movie, let's talk about the beginning and the end, because they're very similar. And then let's move on to the cat and talk about the cat. So the beginning of the movie starts off with the cat on Llewyn Davis, and you see him get up out of bed, and you don't know where he's at, but you later find out he's at the Mike and whatever...
The Gertsheims or something?
Gortsheims. And the cat escapes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how the movie starts off. How it ends, it shows him in the club playing the song just like it started off in the movie, that happens.
So it goes from the cat, and then him playing in the club, and then it kind of...
goes on. And it's almost like a flashback. The entire movie's a flashback leading up to the end of the week. And the end of the week is he's staying at the Gorfines, and then he goes and he plays a show. The difference is, in the first one, the cat escapes. And at the end, the cat is shut in. And that's kind of where Llewyn Davis finally, gives up, I guess.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't really give up. He's just content with knowing that his life, even though it's not very interesting, is still his life, and he likes to live it. I feel like he doesn't really just give up on his dreams. He's kind of like, all right, well, I'm content with it staying the way it is.
One profound line that Carey Mulligan said was, the reason this keeps happening to you is because you wanted to, and you're an asshole. Like, I don't think he was an asshole, but I think he wanted it to.
He was an ass at some points. He was one of those guys.
But I don't know, the loss of Mike, it took him down, and I think he almost had a right at some point.
He had some points to where he could get away with that, but you know, a lot of people did see him as an ass because he'd kind of like interject and stuff like that. But I mean, the world beat him down, so he
was at the end of his rope, and he just couldn't, handle other people right now.
Exactly, and it's a great movie. And what's crazy is we don't even learn what happens to Mike, his partner.
Yeah, a very big missing character.
We don't even realize what happens to him until the car ride with John Goodman, where he says Mike died, and you're like, whoa, why did he die? And then it's like he killed himself, and you're like, oh, okay, that's probably why he's an asshole, and he doesn't want a partner. So you get those little tidbits, and it opens and ends kind of like the movie Memento does, where it's what's going to happen, but it's still like it's about the journey up until that point to when it actually happens, and then you understand more of what happens.
Now, the cat. Do you have a theory on what you think it is? Because I have my own theory that I'll talk about after you're done, if you do have a theory.
I think the cat is the goodness of Llewyn Davis. Like he is the thing that Llewyn has to take care of, and he doesn't care about anybody but himself in the beginning, and then even more so at the end too. But he takes his cat and he takes him with him everywhere, and he cares for him and stuff, and like in the car ride he's petting him and stuff like that, and you see him care for something. Even
after he knew it wasn't the right cat, the second time he picked it up.
He still cared for it, even though he didn't have to, and that's the little sparkle of goodness in Llewyn Davis.
I think, that's definitely, like, there's no right or wrong answer to this question, because it's such a complex. In one interview, the Coen brothers said it was just to make the plot. Like, it was just to drive the plot because they didn't have one, so they added a cat. A lot of people don't think that's the case. They think that's classic Coen brothers saying that to misdirect you. But one interesting theory that I read about, I don't know how valid it is, but the cat might represent Mike. It might be a representation of Mike's soul. There's an obvious connection to the Gorfines, who knew Mike. There's an obvious connection to Llewyn Davis. And Llewyn, like you said, doesn't abandon this cat at any point. He takes it with him through his entire journey when he doesn't have any money to feed it. He has nothing to give. But it's still a part of him, and you still feel like he needs it. And at the end, he finally tries to let go of Mike and be a solo act.
When he shuts the door?
Yeah. But he still fails because Mike was his secret ingredient for success. But I like your idea a lot about it being his goodness, because it could be both. You never really know what
Mike could have been his goodness.
Yes, Mike could have been his good part. I think it deals with a lot of themes. It's a very heavy movie. It doesn't move you to tears, but it does stir something inside you. It makes you reflect a little bit. It makes you feel genuinely sorry for this guy, because you're with him for a week, and you see all the stuff he goes through, and you see how hard he's trying, and how everybody's beating him down. And at the end, all he has is his music.
Yeah, and his dream. He's still, trying to hit that dream.
Interesting thing at the end, Bob, after he gets kicked out of the club, not kicked out, but he goes out because your friend's here, the guy who beats him up. It's actually Bob Dylan who goes on set after him, and Bob Dylan came about right at this time. And Bob Dylan's a folk singer, and he's he's one of the most successful folk singers of all time. And Llewyn Davis was trying to do the same exact thing. Like, look at Private Taylor, was it? The robot army guy?
Yeah.
He was basically doing the exact same stuff Llewyn Davis does, but everybody loved him. And Llewyn didn't quite understand it, and I don't quite understand it. You know, it makes you frustrated that people doing the exact same thing as Llewyn were more successful than he was.
Exactly, and I think everybody can relate. You know, I think everybody can relate to that, trying to get that popularity or trying to get that fame and stuff like that. But I think it really has to do with personality of Llewyn and his. I mean, he is kind of, like I said earlier, a slacker, and I think he's chasing his dream, but he doesn't want to compromise his moral code. Which, I mean, you can respect the man for it, but it wasn't getting him anywhere. You know.
Would you recommend this to the general audience, or do you have a specific audience you'd recommend it to?
I don't know if I'd recommend it to the general audience, but people who love self-contained, very linear, very contained stories, I feel like you should definitely check it out. If you're looking for a deeper story that is different than the summer blockbuster Transformers 4, then you should definitely check out Llewyn Davis. Or if you just, you know, if you love film, it's a great film.
Definitely. I think everyone should watch it and study it because there's so much to learn from it.
Right.
Thank you. I've been Josh.
And I'm Matt. Don't forget to subscribe to the Nerd Corner.